So we know that the mind is powerful, that the mind creates. But if we don't understand how to actually have authority over our minds, to take authority over that creation, to control our thoughts, so to speak, we don't understand that the real war is going on within our minds, and it's being reflected in the world we're experiencing as co-creators. So as we're shifting from lack to abundance, it's important that we don't go to war with ourselves, that we learn an entirely different way to approach what we are, to approach the fact that we are creators, and what do we do with that power. And so in this video, I want to give you 4 tips of how to kind of have more authority over your creation and over your electromagnetic field. So first and foremost, I've talked about this extensively in most of my videos that I do, and on my website, which is abundancematrix.org. In one of the videos I said .com, but it's actually .org. I have a lot of information on how to navigate your reality when you're in lack versus, how to navigate your reality when you're in abundance versus lack, and making decisions and following your heart and having discernment and all of those things. But in this video, I want to give some pretty general tips, but I think that are really helpful when it comes to how we're approaching life, because we have to become aware, first and foremost, of how we are interacting with our reality, because it's first and foremost in our thoughts. We're interacting with our thoughts, and then we're expressing that interaction by our actions and what we're doing. And our thoughts reflect to us our deepest beliefs. And what we all tend to forget at some point is that just because we may logically say we agree with something, or we may want to get behind a certain symbol or a certain thing because it makes us feel like better people, it doesn't mean that that's what we actually believe. How we know what we believe is by what we do and how we react to things. If we're constantly reacting in fear, we know that our deepest belief is that we're not safe. If we're constantly or that we're not loved, or that we're whatever it is on some level, or that there's not enough, it's in survival mode. And so it's important to identify what those beliefs are. And the number one problem that has gotten in our way of waking up is suppression, is absolutely distracting and suppressing ourselves from how we actually feel. There's such a misunderstanding about emotions and what their function is and their role in our lives. And so we've developed a society, and especially in the first world countries, that if we don't feel good, it's somehow bad. And again, when you're in a lack mentality, when you're in a survival mentality, it's duality. There's only good and bad. And so if you don't feel good, then that's bad. And if it's bad, then you don't want to be a part of it. And so you run from it. Number one is it's essential right now that we give up trying being the operative word, trying to know things, and actually activate what we do know. Our experience is gold. It's our pearl of great price, so to speak. And the heart is the main player here. It's our first organ that's created in our mother's womb. Our whole electromagnetic field flows from the heart. If the heart stops, the body stops. If the brain stops, the body can still be alive. But if the heart stops, we're dead. The heart is the center of it all. And so how we feel is crucial to understanding whether what we're believing, what belief we're activating, is for us or against us, if it's making us feel safe or endangered. And like I said, we have habitually numbed that out. So when we're in this survival mode that we're all in, people's fear gets activated, and often what happens is we jump into the mind, because the mind feels like it has to figure everything out. And often when we're in a lack mentality, we're pretty much in the mind. We're in survival. Being in survival mode is being solely in the mind, letting the mind rule. And the problem with that, as I've said many times, is the mind does not know how to discern. It doesn't have the ability to discern. The mind can only draw upon the past for its knowledge. And so there's a point in our pursuit of knowledge, so to speak, in which we can actually put knowledge above knowing. And they are two different things, because knowing comes from experience. It's only once you've experienced something that you know it intimately. When you just read about something or learn the facts about something, you don't actually know it. And you know this every day in your life. There's context to everything. And even something that you witness from the outside, you can have a perspective about it, but unless you're in the inside of it, experiencing it from the inside out, you're missing a huge whole part of what's actually going on. And that's the problem with numbing our hearts out and becoming machines of the mind and becoming just so operative from the mind, is we're missing out on a huge part of what the reality of being human actually is. And so it's important that we give up trying to know and actually utilize or activate what we do know. When we're in fear, often we run from, we like sacrifice or forget the things we absolutely do know at this point. And if we understand that our reality is fueled by our beliefs, beliefs are the core of everything. Beliefs are powerful. If we haven't understood that at this point, we're missing something huge. What people believe dramatically affects how they live their life and how they treat others and how they are, and therefore how the whole planet functions. So our beliefs are everything. So if we actually don't get a hold of what we truly believe, examine ourselves and say, regardless of what I think I know, what do I believe? And I only know what I believe by how I'm reacting to the life around me. That's how I know what I believe. And usually that comes from experience. So if we're constantly reacting in fear and trauma, it's because there's actual experiences that we have that have caused us to form beliefs that we're not safe, that we can't trust, that there's not enough, that we're not enough. And so if we buy into the lack matrix, that we have to prove and earn our worth, then we're just going further into lack and into a duality mindset. And that's where the light and dark becomes so huge. And I think I've been thinking about this a lot lately. My whole life, whenever, the first time I even read the verse in the Bible that talks about in the last times that even the elite or the elect will be deceived, I wondered what that meant, because I didn't really understand even what the elect was or what that even meant exactly. But I know everyone has their probably own interpretation of it, but as it's been revealed to me through my experience, is that a lot of times we gain ground or gain power when we're in the lack matrix based on splitting off from what we are saying we're not. And we define ourselves against what we're not. And so often we get so deeply seeped in that ego, that identity of I am this and not that, that we don't realize that we are literally some of the strongholds that hold together the duality matrix, the lack matrix. And duality too, in my mind, it's not including the spirit. The Trinity includes the spirit, the heart, the mind, and the body. To me, the heart is the spirit, or you could say the body, mind, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But that is the spirit, and we are a Trinity. We are body, we are mind, we are heart, we are spirit. All life force comes from what is the spirit of something. It's the essence of something, and the essence of something comes from the beliefs that make up that thing. The beliefs around it create an essence about it. It's important that we utilize what we do know and start tapping into our experience to see what do we truly believe based on our experiences, and the beliefs that we've formed that we're in lack, that those beliefs that we're not enough, there's not enough, that person's an enemy, there's only black and white, there's only this or that. We're in lack because it's not this or that, it's this and that. And it's only by getting to that point where we understand there's an infinite amount of realities we can tap into. And one of them is heaven on earth. One of them is people's needs being met. One of them is people's hearts being restored. One of them is people having understanding. And if you're just trying to kill everyone who doesn't agree with you or go to war with them, you are not offering a vibration or a code for them to get to here, from here to here. And the only way to do that is to accept here, to see it as real, to understand it, to fully understand how you got there. That's the only way you gain the wisdom. If you just kill it, you've lost the wisdom in it. So activate what you know and understand what you actually truly believe. Number 2, allow new experiences. So things are changing, and often when we're in the lack mindset, especially for people who've been extremely traumatized and do not feel safe in this reality, anything new, any new energy coming in can feel like a threat. But the truth is, we've all been asking, that the collective is asking for healing. It's asking for restoration. It's asking for answers. It's saying we've pulled the veil back enough to show there is some deep, dark, incredibly hidden shadow aspects of what we are that we're all participating in, whether consciously or unconsciously. And once you start becoming conscious of it, we are aware that we have to shift the way we've been doing things in order for it to truly shift. Going to war doesn't work. We actually have to shift what we know about what we are. We actually have to gain authority over our electromagnetic field, over our creative abilities, over our mind. It's important that we do this. So if we don't allow new things in, if we perceive any new energy as a threat, we're not receiving. We're consistently shutting down. And that has to do with, at a deep level, not trusting. But trusting is key. The absolute key to being able to overcome is to trust that there is love, that you can be loved, that you can be witnessed even in your deepest, darkest self, and still have love, still have a space for forgiveness. And that's what's so radical about what Jesus actually did. Like, the more awake I become, the more I understand, like, whoa, what Jesus did was absolute key. Even if you don't literally believe in it, the story, if you believe people just wrote that story, let's just say that's the case, it's just a fictional story, it's still key, because we're saying something so deep through that message, so deep, which is that there can be a link between here and here. And that link is Christ, which is literally anointing your life, saying it matters, I matter, the story matters. It's key, in fact, it's gold. And it's not, I think there's just something so important about understanding, again, going back to how the elite can be deceived, is that we can, when we're in survival mode and when we rely only on the mind, or primarily on the mind, it can cause us to become very, I guess, prideful, in the sense of the more we think we know, the more we somehow think we have gained some sort of mastery, that we maybe, like I said, true mastery comes from experience. And so there is a point at which we must receive. We receive. And if we can't receive because we think we know it all, we are actually being deceived. We're actually being deceived at a core level. And so receiving is important, because if we can't receive, we're activating the belief of, I'm unsafe to receive. It's not safe to actually have communion with the other. They're bad and I'm good, and I can't interact with that because then it'll taint me. And so that's what causes this elite sort of attitude, literally distancing yourself more and more and more and more from humanity. So we need to allow new experiences in. This is crucial. Allow ourselves to experience new things. So even on small levels, I find with change, especially as someone who experienced a tremendous amount of change a lot in my childhood, as an adult, sometimes I just feel like I want things to be settled. I want to feel like there's some sort of consistency, but I still want to try new things. And so what I've really learned is that, for me, having change come in small increments is really powerful. Like, just little decisions all the time. Like, I'm going to try something new to eat, and I'm going to maybe try to learn something that I haven't learned before, or connect with someone that's really, really different from me. And just from an observer standpoint. But anything that kind of can allow new energy in without us feeling threatened is important, because otherwise, if we resist and resist and resist change, eventually it comes, and it's a lot of change at once, and we're not prepared for it because we've suppressed it. So it's important to allow the change, allow new experiences, and fine-tune your resistance to those experiences. Number 3, discover your true heart's desire. So if we're building heaven on earth, heaven is fueled by desire. It's fueled by the desires of the heart, and specifically of the restored heart. Our heart's fully restored. In other words, our connection to what we are as creators and to whatever created us, restored. We trust the life. We trust the experience. We trust our ability as storytellers. We trust our creation. We trust what we are. We trust our humanity. And that's a huge shift from being at war with our humanity to trusting our humanity and our creative abilities. But that's heaven. And when people can trust their creative abilities and trust their heart and trust that they're safe to create, that's when we start creating amazing solutions, and we start creating a world more and more that's about thriving, that's about self-sustaining energy, and people get more free. And the truth is, the more we realize that our hearts are the center of it all, and that literally the heart creates the electromagnetic field around us, which is our living field of energy, which magnetizes things to us and repels things away from us based on our intention and our beliefs. when we start really learning how that works, we can fine tune and realize, whoa, it's actually not about anything external from me other than we're co-creators. So what we collectively believe creates a stronger reality. You could say those are the principalities and the strongholds, because what people collectively believe, you're fueling it more. You're literally making it more real. So, but it doesn't mean that things that are obscure beliefs aren't just as real. It's just that it gains momentum and power the more people that believe in it. So, but if we started really understanding that it's literally from within, it's getting in touch with our hearts and living from the heart out, we can fine tune our reality and line up to the one that's most reflective of our innermost being. And wherever we are right now is most reflective of your beliefs. So if you're in a war world, it's reflective of your deepest beliefs. And that's why it's important not to be afraid of it, but to go into it, to discover what you believe and why you believe it, and heal and cleanse those beliefs, shift them, change them, reprogram them, not delete them from history like they never existed, because that means that's trauma that's never healed. I'm talking about overcoming the belief with a new belief, proving yourself wrong, because everything exists. So the more that we can just understand that the term I like to call myself is a believer. I'm a believer. I believe in all things, but I believe there are beliefs that are beneficial and beliefs that are detrimental. That all things are permissible, as Paul says, but not all things are beneficial. And our job is to fine tune and discern what is actually beneficial and what is actually detrimental. And when we truly understand how the science of this works, imagine if you were taught in elementary school about your living field of energy that's around you, and how that field is kind of like your spaceship that makes you attuned to certain realities and frequency, and it's a reflection of your programming. Imagine if you were taught that in school, if you really to become aware of yourself and of your own beliefs and your relationship with your body and your relationship with the collection of co-creators. Be a whole different world, and that's happening. So yeah, what do you believe? Allow yourself to connect to your heart, and allow your heart to start to heal, because you can't enter heaven without your heart. And it's not heaven unless it's fully restored. So the restoration of your heart is absolutely key, and that involves receiving love, receiving forgiveness, receiving Christ, christening your life so that it matters, anointing it with the blessing. And if you truly believe that you are anointing your life, then you now have a belief system that I am worthy. Even though it's not based on anything I've done, I'm just worthy because love exists, because it was offered to me and I received it. And again, when we're in a duality mindset, there are people that the elite sometimes get so attached to the fact that they earned their right to be respected. They earned their worthiness in the world, that to have a belief that other people can have the same benefits of freedom that they have, not based on anything they did, but because they received that, just opened up to receive, that's a conflict of ego to an ego that is completely identified with having earned their freedom or having earned their right to be in heaven. And I'm not saying anything wrong with earning something. I truly believe, I know, like that's what makes us individuals, and that's what's healthy for our ego, is to understand itself and to learn how to do things itself. But if we say you're unworthy unless you do that, you become a slave automatically to whatever the collective's beliefs are about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And we get tuned out of our hearts and tuned into the mind, to the hive mind, and start letting the hive mind control us. So, what are the true desires of your heart? Desire fuels heaven. Desire is it's the key to everything. And desire has been something that has been demonized in our society, because often desire is confused with lack and being starving for something that you have a belief you can't get, and so you grab onto it and sacrifice other aspects of what you are to get that desire met. But when we understand at a core level that all things exist, that nothing's being withheld from us, and the only thing that actually keeps anything from us is our beliefs about whether we're worthy or not, then we can actually have something to start working with. Then we actually know where to go in our healing journey and why it's important to do so. So, what are the desires of your heart? Desires are key. It's important that we understand what our desires are and meet our needs. And then number 4, stop justifying, proving, and hiding things. We do not have to justify, we do not have to prove, and we do not have to hide anything that we are, because we are worthy just by merit of being here to be creators. We are free. That's an inalienable right given to every single human that is protected by a higher power. And so if we activated that inalienable right to be a creator, we realize we do not have to justify our existence by proving we have worth. We don't have to hide anything that we are because we're accepted, and we don't have to prove anything because we're not trying to prove our worthiness or prove to the mind that we're worthy of living. We are just worthy of living because we're here. And we have choices that we get to make about what we're going to do with our existence. And it's so important that we clearly understand the lack matrix and how it works and why it works the way it does and how we can shift out of it. How we by reprogramming ourselves at the deepest levels of our core beliefs that have been, many of them, passed down ancestral through trauma. If we can stop that here and allow the trauma to be healed and allow our hearts to be restored, we can shift our whole programming. And here's the kicker. I may do it and another person may not. And all that would happen is we would move out of each other's realities. This reality is still real and my reality is still real. We would just no longer be a match to each other. And the problem is when we're coming at restoration or moving from abundance to lack, from a war mentality, as I said in the beginning, we feel like we can't go here unless we convince this person that our reality is the only one. Because when you're coming from lack, only one reality can be right. Only I can be right. And if you don't agree with me, well, then that threatens my reality, because not only do I need you to agree with me, but I need the collective as a whole to agree with me so I can feel safe. So I can't have any freedom until I convince everyone to agree with me. And that's a completely flawed premise, because if we understood actually how creation works, we would understand that it's not about the other person. Yes, like I said, collective beliefs do create strongholds, and they are real. So they're a part of your reality. And I think that's why I think the Apostle Paul, I think it was Paul that talks about in Acts. At one point, the disciples were going out into different areas to preach and to tell people about Christ. And I remember this verse one time that I read about that, and Paul said that they didn't blaspheme those people's gods. And that's always stood out to me, because you don't go up and blaspheme someone else's belief system in order for your belief system to be justified. There is a certain amount of respect that is called for when we understand what we are as creators, because that other person, regardless of how ridiculous their belief system might seem to you, it's real to them, and they've created it, and there are other people that believe in it, and that creates a stronghold. And in some cases, they're powerful strongholds that can actually extremely affect you if you don't respect them. You don't have to believe them, but it's important that you respect them, because if you don't respect other people's beliefs, you don't respect what we are as creators. That beliefs fuel everything. Again, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. So it's really important that we just learn to discern which beliefs are for our thriving and our growth and our expansion, and which beliefs are against our thriving and our growth and our expansion. That's all we need to do, is learn how to discern and then use our powers accordingly. We don't need to go to war with someone else. So if you find, even if there's a stronghold, it's just important that you respect the core of what that stronghold is. It's beliefs that were most likely formed in trauma. So it's protecting something, which is why people will often kill to keep that belief safe, because it's protecting extremely vulnerable wounds on the planet. And true healers on this planet understand that, and that's why they can hold space and witness even the darkest of the dark, because they have a deep understanding about how beliefs work and how creation works. And we are all creators, and that in and of itself is powerful. And if we want to be respected as creators, it's important that we respect other people's creations, even if we don't agree with it. And if we understood, like I said, that we don't have to go to war, if we strongly don't agree with something, we become the opposite vibration of that. We match the frequency of the thing we do want, and then we create our own strongholds, which can help dissolve strongholds that have taken over and that are influencing people in a negative way. So the battle is truly within. It's with yourself. It's really about learning how to take authority over the mind, not letting the mind be your master. Let it be your servant and your friend and your co-creator, really, at the deepest level. And so, yeah, number 4, stop justifying, proving, and hiding. No matter what you are, who you are, it's better that things are in the open, and we need to allow people to tell on themselves, tell what they believe, speak their truth, whatever their truth is, because that's how we get a clear picture about what's going on. Suppressing other people's voice and their beliefs and telling them to shut up because it doesn't fit in with what you believe, that doesn't work. It just creates an illusion that is kind of BS, and it actually deceives more people and keeps us I think there's a reason why they say keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Like, it's important to know what your shadow's up to so that you know how to have authority over it. It's powerful, period, whether you like it or not. So all of this ultimately is about discernment, and it's about knowing how to really utilize what we are rather than to go to war with it. It's much better if we know we're creators. We know we've created a world. Some of those creations have been horrific, some have been great, some have enslaved, some have empowered. But we've at this point, the veil has been pulled back far enough for us to see where there are strongholds of shadows at place in this world that has kept people enslaved. And all we have to do is withdraw our vote from that reality. And we do that by frequency matching the thing that we want rather than what we don't want. And like I said, we can start collectively creating strongholds that can overthrow strongholds that have kept people enslaved. And really, ultimately, it's reflective of our own shadow being enslaved, our own power. It's like we're here and we're powerful, but we don't trust our power. And so we're creating, but we're kind of creating against ourselves rather than for ourselves, because we haven't fully forgiven ourselves and we haven't fully healed the trauma. So that's happening right now, and it's a powerful time to be alive, but it's also a powerful time to have discernment more than ever, because even the elite and even people who may, whatever side you identify with, the elite on that side, many, I would say the majority, are locked into the lack matrix. And so it's important that we step back and take up our own authority, take up our own power, take up our ability as individual divine creators to start shifting our electromagnetic field to match what we want. That's how we withdraw our vote. We vote first and foremost through our intention and through our energy and through our actions, through our focus. That's what we vote with more than anything. So it's not about ignoring the problem, but it's about consciously choosing which reality you want to be in right now and which reality you want to actually embody. And it doesn't mean pretending that the other realities don't exist. That's the biggest problem. If we create a reality where we pretend none of this other power has existed, it's going to scare the crap out of us when we really see what's going on. So we need to understand that all things exist. All beliefs exist on some level. Some exist stronger and some exist weaker, but they all exist. So if we understood that at a primary level and then worked on our beliefs from the inside out, I think we have much more of a chance to gaining authority over our lives and really creating heaven on earth. So I also just wanted to say, for those of you who've heard about my Chakra Cleanse, which is really about this, sort of about reprogramming the beliefs from the inside out. And I like working with the chakras because symbolically they represent how our emotions interact with our body. And I'm creating this cleanse in a way that we can go back to it over and over and over and continually update our beliefs. And I'm going to be continually updating the cleanse probably every year. So I've done the class once before, and now I'm just releasing a new one. And if you watched my previous videos about it, I opened early registration, and I let the first 10 people be in a private. I'm letting the first 10 people that registered, which sold out in like a day, to be in a private group, Facebook group with me, and I'm actually going through the cleanse with everyone. But yesterday, when I was preparing for the class, it came to me really strongly to just open that up until we start. And so technically tomorrow, which is Wednesday the 12th of September, I'm releasing the first amount of information for the class, which is all just prep, to like set your intention, to be clear about what we're doing, and to prep to get in the right mindset for the cleanse that starts on Monday. And so I just thought I'll just actually, whoever has registered, even if those of you who pre-registered that didn't make the first 10, I'm going to add you to the class anyway. And anyone who orders between now and Saturday, I'm going to say Saturday because you're going to need at least one day to prep before we start on Monday. But anyone who orders between today, which is Tuesday, and Saturday, I will add you to the class. And what I'm going to do, this came to me too, and I thought it was really cool and I'm excited about it, is that anyone who pre-register, so if you've already pre-registered, this applies to you as well. Anyone who pre-registers between now and Saturday, I'm going to allow you to share the class with 2 people of your choosing. So it can be your friends, it can be, if you're married, you can already share your class with your spouse or whatever, I don't care about that. But you get 2 people to share it with. And the number 3 keeps coming to me. 3 is the manifestation, 3 is the Trinity, 3 is how we create powerfully. It's moving from duality to the spirit of things and understanding how that works. And so if you share it with 2 people, you've created your own triangle. And if you kind of work on the class and the cleanse together with them, you're starting to flow the energy more powerfully in a collective. And also sharing with each other and reflecting back and forth to each other is a really powerful way to do that. We'll also be doing that in the class. But I find that when you don't know people, it's much harder to be vulnerable than if you were to do it with your sisters or your friends. And so I just wanted to be clear, if you've pre-registered, you yourself will get added to the class. And then you can choose 2 people to share the material with, but they won't be added to the class because I don't want the class to be so huge that it's overwhelming. I want people to feel a sense of intimacy. So anyway, I'm excited to see what happens with this. Like those of us who create together in the private group, I'm setting the intentions that it just be the people who are meant to be there and people who truly have a heart to shift and to really have authority over their electromagnetic field so they can start being the embodiment of restoration, the embodiment of healing and understanding, doing the inner work rather than focusing so much on the external, because that's a drain of energy. And really the work is in here. The work is here. And working on our trust with creation itself. So, all right, it's 33 minutes. That's a powerful number. So I'm going to stop this video here. If you've made it all the way through, I congratulate you. I know I'm sort of all over the place, but that's just how it flowed today. So I hope you join the class if you feel called to. Oh, and I also just wanted to say I'm also giving everyone who pre-registered for this Chakra Cleanse class access a 22% discount on the 6-week abundance training course, which will be released later. And the Chakra Cleanse is a prerequisite for that class. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to take it, but if you felt called, you get 22% off if you pre-register for the Chakra Cleanse. And one more reminder, if you have already paid for the Chakra Cleanse, if you did the first round of Chakra Cleanse, you get this class anyway. You get it for free. So don't pay for it because I don't want to have to refund a bunch of people. If you've already taken the Chakra Cleanse class, just email me once it comes out and I'll send you the updated version, and you'll get anyone who ever buys a Chakra Cleanse class will from then on get every single updated version of the Chakra Cleanse that I do, which, like I said, I'm kind of tentatively planning on doing it every year, but just mostly it's whenever I feel called and led to shift it, because I think it's important that we keep sharp in our beliefs, and the more that's revealed to us, the more we'll need to update the program. And so we're just understanding in part, and the more parts we get, we'll understand in full. So all right, I love you guys. I hope you're doing well. Hopefully this video resonated on some level. I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Lately, you guys have been giving me great feedback and like words of wisdom, and I've really noticed that many of you who watch me are just deep, incredible healers and like just powerfully wise. And so I love to hear your thoughts, and thank you so much for sharing them. So, all right, much love.